All right, there we go. So firstly, you do need to import UIKit, right? Import UIKit and then class define May. This is going to be 22nd, right? And you cast it as UI view controller and then view to load, super view to load. And view, you assign a color that can be any color you want. White is good. And then, all right, what you need to do is declare a table view here, lazy var, and then this one's going to be called table. You can call that table one, table two, table three, and then UI table view and assignment operator, and then let inner parameter, this is TB equals UI table view or table view, and then return TB here, right? All of those supposed to be no problem for you now. And then now you need to assign delegate to the class itself. But however, it wouldn't allow you to do it. It is simply because, I mean, you need to conform a protocol. So this is going to be UI table view delegate. All right. And this is going to be called um, protocol um, conform conformation. All right. Okay. You need to conform this table view delegate and the table view data source. All right. So these are two very important stuff. If you conform these two protocols, um, therefore you can have numbers of rows in section. And then you can also have cell for row ads. Okay. So this is basically, all right, suppose you have a maybe a list data and you can assign some initial value here, right? Okay, so such as this is A, this is B, and this is C. And these will basically return the number of the data, right? Okay, because such as this chart, right? You have one, two, three, four. So logically speaking, the first one is going to be account setting. All right, account setting. Number two is going to be my post, right? My posts. Number three is going to be dietary restrictions, right? And then the fourth one is going to be blocked users, right? Good. All right. Because you need to display all of these here, then you need to get the length or the size of that array. And then at right here, you define a cell. This is going to be table one underscore DQ, and then have that. And this one is going to be a unique identifier. This can be my cell and index path, all right? Index path, all right? And once again, all right, so hold on for a second. These two methods play the role of a for loop, basically. All right. So these will get the size, which is n, right? So the for loop is like for I starts at 0 and I less than n, and then I increments here, right? And then do the inner parameters here, whatever. Okay. This is the end, all right. And then you do need to return cell right here, and then cell period text, the label period text is going to be. Now you have to access the array, right? So the array is a list, period data, and then index uh, path dot row, right? Dot row. There we go. So this is basically array access rate. Okay, so therefore. This is basically 0, 1, 2, 3. There is basically a hidden. So, and there is a hidden for loop inside. All right, okay, there we go. And then everything's supposed to be all good here and TB period. You do need to have the register, right? The register. So for that, you can simply have register and a UI table view cell and the self and identifier for cell reuse identifier. This one must match this exactly, right? And then Moreover, you probably need a data source of data, right? Data source. All right. And then you can set up the frame to be the view's purest bounds. Therefore, it will fill out every corner of these the film. Or okay. And then last one is going to be setup UI, right? Okay. So setup, you can use a setup or setup UI. Yeah, you can pick the name you want and the view period add subview. You want to add the table underscore one in, right? And I guess this is almost done. Everything should be nice and easy. And right now, all I need to do, the last step, right? So these one call methods that you want here. Not all methods, but the method you want is basically now set up UI here. And then if you forget the how to set right here, you need to go to the scene delegate, and this one's going to be May 22nd, right? And then run the code. And you do need to pick a proper simulator. I'm using a Pro Max. Let's see what is going on here. And then if you compile the code, and it will give you basically exactly what you want to get. All right. So this is let's take a quick look. Yeah, it takes a bit of while, but it's going to happen, I guess. All right, as you can see, all of this is here, right? Okay. Uh, okay, there we go. And then, so how would you make it react to each cell, right? So that is going to be, it is also an old knowledge. So this one's going to be called the did select roulette. So firstly, you can print list underscore data, square bracket, index path dot row, and the period. I guess, do I have to do this? Yeah, I think so. I can do that, right? So therefore, if I click the first row, the index path is 0. So 0 at the list of data is account setting. So logically speaking, I'm going to have account setting in the console here, right? Okay. This is going to be really straightforward, right? There we go. Then you can display data and get data, right? So there we go. All right. So this is a quick review of UI table view. Um, but I guess in the past, you finished these something similar, right? So today is basically a quick review here. All right. So I'm going to copy and paste everything right here. Okay. There we go. Now I'm going to have the task here. Task one. So please review the sample UI table view. All right. Implementation. All right. Task number two. Uh, add comments. Add comments at all important elements. All right. And a task number three. So I guess you just finished your AP exam, right? So task three. So create a UI table view to display all of your AP exams with details such as the subject's name and what is in the subjects, right? Something like that. All right. Okay. I'm going to stop record this, resume. All right, so I'm going to explain what does lazyvar do here. So I need to get projects right here. Okay. So for instance, lazyvar allows you to use a view for free. Not for free, directly. It's using the view directly. So for instance, everything. So for instance, like this one is we call them class variable, and class it. All right, it has class accessible. Okay, so for instance, let identifier something like that could be a string and equals my cell, right? Okay, there we go. So suppose I want to use this, right? Um, for instance, I want to replace my cell by this variable. So this is like most likely we want to use a variable instead of a constant, right? Because constant, if there are hundreds of table view, right? And you couldn't possibly remember every single one. And one mismatch will ruin the app, right? There we go. So we usually use a variable to implement the data right here. But if I turn that into let, all right, or even var, right? So it wouldn't pass the what? The compilation time. So this error occurs at a compilation error. All right, so this is like a compilation error. All right, okay. Um, in the past, you'll be learning this in the AP CSA for some reason. So AP CSA also has like a runtime error. All right. This is also, I guess, in AP CSA probably. So runtime error is you wouldn't be seeing these error. The runtime is when you run the code, a crash. That is a runtime error. So basically, the compilation error simply means, okay, the compiler doesn't understand that, all right? Or there's no way to access the memories, right? Okay. So therefore, if I remove that, all right, okay, and there is no way to have the class itself, it even fails, right? Okay, and then you probably just keep deleting it. However, this data source would fail as well. And again, if you try to run the code, this will fail as well because it cannot use instance member. Why? Because identifier belongs, right? So therefore, this variable belongs 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 to belongs to class May 22nd, right? So it's a class itself, part of it, right? Therefore, this is not able to use the identifier as a class instance, right? Okay, and even though this. So therefore, we have to use a lazy var to achieve the goal, all right? And what is a lazy var? Right here. In Swift, lazy-var is a way to define a property that is not initialized until it is accessed, right? Accessed for the first time. This is useful when the initial value of a property is computationally expensive or depends on something that might not be available during the initialization, right? Okay. So as you can see, the table view, you probably need that, right? Depends on something, right? Therefore, this is the syntax here, a lazy var. The key points, lazy can only be used for var, not let, because variable may not be available at the time of initialization. Lazy properties must have an initial value, right? Okay, and initialize only once and then cached, using cache. And are useful when the property depends on self, right? Or other properties of the objects, which might not be available during the normal property initialization. It's basically a little the class object theories here. All right, okay. And you probably want to know, what if I don't want to use a lazy var? There's always way you can uh, to switch. It's basically you do everything at a closure here, then it would be working, all right? But you have to change this one into this and that, then it's totally fine. Why? Because this is a encapsulation. So there, because all right, this is encapsulation, which is a method, right? A method here. And it also display um, the there are four principles, principles of OOP. All right. One is abstraction, and then number two is encapsulation, and then number three is a polymorphism, and number four is inheritance. Inheritance. All right. There we go. Um, Yes. So therefore, this is interchangeable. If you do that, it's exactly the same result, but you don't have to use a lazy bar. You can use an let. Pretty straightforward, very easy. Um, yeah, it will show you exactly the same result. Yes. Why people use a lazy bar right here? It simply will make the the code a bit readable, I guess. It is because if you do the lazy var here, you can simply quote everything inside this block. So therefore, you can keep your setup UI pretty concise, easier to read, right? Okay. As you can see, exactly the same here. And what you can do without lazy var, you can still set up the background color to be UI color period system, let's say yellow, right? So because UI color is not a class variables, right? UI color is not this a class, so it can be accessed anywhere else, right? Okay, there we go. Um, and yeah, this is see, it's exactly the same. And what else? So, yep. Okay, so this is a very good question. I'm glad you asked that. All right, lazy var. Um, yeah. Does this make more sense to you?
Uh,
All right,
yeah.
good. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the Zoom and then